my name is Jenny Hogg. I ran track and field at Troy University for 4 years from '02 to '06. I was a high jumper and hurdler for 3 years, and then my senior year we changed conferences and I was a heptathlete for that year. Still concentrating in the hurdles, the 400-meter hurdles and high jump. And my typical week at school would look like, we always competed on the weekends, so a lot of times we would leave on a Friday or even a Thursday sometimes and get to miss class, of course, so we had to be particular about scheduling classes. And track meets on the university level, much like high school, would last all day. Sometimes you would have an all-day track meet, sometimes 2 or 3 days long. You would have preliminaries for a day, and then on Sunday you would have the finals. So it would be an entire weekend affair. There were some meets that were considered twilight meets that would start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and last until 10 o'clock or maybe even midnight, and then we'd get on a bus and drive back home and arrive home before daylight if we're lucky. Get to sleep the rest of the weekend. Those are the weekends. Monday morning comes around and you typically have workouts. We lifted weights probably 3 times a week in the off season, twice a week during season, usually at 6:30 in the morning from 6:30 until 7:15 or so. Go grab a quick bite, head to class. Practice was always at 3 o'clock on the dot for all the sprinters. If you were a specialty athlete, like I was sometimes, you would have to arrive early, maybe at 2 o'clock, and have some technique work with your specific event before the rest of the team got there, and then you would do the workout with the sprinters as well. If you couldn't come before, then you would stay after. Get done with practice around, different days were different, but on average probably around 5 o'clock, sometimes 5:30. Head to the caf for lunch. Study hall was that night if you had to go. In college, sometimes it's not always mandatory for study hall if you make the grades or if you're on academic scholarship. It's not mandatory that you go to study hall. Each sport is different and each school is different. But at Troy, when I was there, study hall was only mandatory, I believe, for those who didn't meet a certain GPA or upperclassmen. All freshmen not on academic scholarship had to go to study hall. I believe that's pretty standard across the NCAA, but I'm not sure. My biggest challenge in being a student athlete at the collegiate level was, I would have to say, time management. Because I was also an athletic trainer, I would be covering a sport in the afternoons for my major, and I would somehow have to get in my practice time as well. So definitely time management was a huge challenge. For my first 3 years, I would typically work out in the mornings on my own. And in track and field, it's a good sport for that because you don't have to work out with the team. You can work out, as long as you get your stuff in, you're fine. So many times the coach would meet me at 6 a.m. or 6:30, and I would do all my practice then, so that in the afternoons I could concentrate on my major and classes and things of that nature. My senior year, I was fortunate in that I was able to work out with the team more consistently in the afternoons at 3 o'clock as a standard day. So definitely the biggest challenge that I faced. If I had the opportunity to speak to somebody, I guess, more in depth as I left high school going to college, I wish that they had told me or explained more in depthly just the competition gradient, I guess. I mean, going from high school where you're the best at everything you do to college where the competition is so much better is something I wasn't necessarily prepared for, and it took a while to get used to. Your ego's hurt you a little bit, your pride's hurt, and you think, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I thought it was, and you're still good. The competition's just that much better. I wish that I had been more prepared for that aspect of it. And looking back, I should have been. I should have known, but that's probably the one big thing that I wish I had been more aware of, I guess, and expectations, what the coaches expected of you. So if you're seeking to pursue a track and field or any sport on a collegiate level, that's something that you would want to ask, I'm sure. What are the expectations as far as performance standards that you will be held to? What do they expect of you your freshman year, sophomore, all the way through? My favorite part of being a student athlete by far was definitely the friendships I made and the people I met. I stay in touch with many of those people to this day. I've been in their weddings. I'm very close to them. I visit them on a regular basis. And that's something that's been just irreplaceable and invaluable in my life, are those friendships. Being a part of a team, even when it is track and field and it's largely an individual sport, unfortunately, even in that setting, you just have a sense of belonging, and that you're a part of something bigger than yourself, and that's a good feeling to me, and I just love that. If I wasn't a student athlete during college, I don't know what I would have done with myself. I would have been lost. So it was just a good niche for me, a good place to belong, definitely. There are several benefits of being a student athlete on the collegiate level. Among them, the obvious jump out, you get to travel many times all across the nation. If you've never flown, that's something that you probably get to do. Get lots of free gear. If you're on scholarship, it's free school. Who can complain about that? You get typically free books, free meals. It's a 4-year ride of almost all of your needs and necessities, and in exchange for something that's actually quite fun. Being a part of a team and getting to do the sport you love, running. And as far as long-term benefits, I've seen huge benefits in my professional career from times when I ran track. Because of my chosen profession as an athletic trainer, many of the rehab tools I use are from my track and field days. I've probably learned more on the track than I ever did in the classroom in that regard. Also, in the intangible things such as work ethic and knowing how hard I can push my own athletes here at Gulf Coast and what they can do, what they can't do. I know these things because I experienced them as an athlete. And it also makes you tougher both mentally and physically. I'm able to work longer days and get by. And it also teaches you that value of teamwork and getting along with coworkers and that sort of thing. People skills are huge because, in college I had to deal with coaches, I had to deal with my teammates many times. Time management issues have played invaluable roles in my current profession. If I had any advice I would give younger athletes, people seeking to pursue track and field collegiately, I would just say, work hard. You won't get anywhere if you don't work hard. You've got to. I'm sure it's the same for every sport. You've got to work hard. You've got to make the grades. You've got to plan ahead is the big thing. Know when the deadlines are. Know when scholarship applications are due. And networking is big. If you want to get into a school, if you want to run collegiately, then make contact with coaches. Send them an email just so that they become familiar with your name on a piece of paper and so they know that you're interested and that you're serious. Email coaches, call them up. It's okay to pester them. I'm sure they get it a lot. They don't mind. That would be the big thing. So work hard, networking, schoolwork.